If you're watching this video, you probably want to know how to make a sword, and this is an Egyptian Khopesh that I made for my Horus, God of War, Egyptian mythology Halloween costume. But with Assassin's Creed right around the corner, the Khopesh is going to become really, really popular. At least I hope it will, because it's such a cool sword that's sort of been lost to time. It's designed to have the arc of a scythe, but the battle capacity of a sword. Now, let's go ahead and get to how you can make this yourself. You could go with foam, which is safer, cheaper, and easier to make because you can use like a utility knife or scissors with that. I personally went with a hardwood. This is oak. I got one large plank, cut just the tiniest bits I could off. I really tried to maximize my space, and then I glued them on the bottom here, on top and bottom, so that I could create a little bit thicker handle, a little bit thicker crossguard, and a little bit thicker pommel. But it is a full tang, meaning that this piece of wood goes all the way through and down through the middle here, and then I used C-clamps to hold this down with wood glue, and it creates a seamless bond there. But if you were worried about it for strength purposes, it is a full tang technically. I started using a hacksaw for this and very quickly gave up once the sword got a jigsaw, ended up cutting out the full shape. And then I started doing some basic shaping things, so I kind of arced this here so that it had a little bit more of a bend to it, and I did the same thing over here. You can see that has a little bit of an arc to it, and I added all the little aesthetic touches like this point here and then the rounded corners here. And then once I kind of got the shape I wanted to go with the jigsaw, I started using a Dremel, and again I shaped it. I rounded a lot of these corners off. I do really sharp 45 or even 90-degree corners, and then I'd round it off. So right here in this sort of middle support area, I rounded it off to almost look like an oval. Here on the handle, you can tell it's a lot more rounded. It is more rounded up front and more squared in back, just because I kind of like the way that felt in my hand. But ultimately, it's very close to a cylinder there. It is just something that I changed ergonomically so that it's almost a perfect circle up here, and only sort of greatly rounded squared edges over here. Then I rounded off the bat because I saw a Khopesh design online that had this point and this big pommel at the end, presumably so you can strike and then strike with the back end of the pommel. And that's what the point was for. But as I started shaping this, I wanted to go with some, nice hard lines here to give it focally interesting points. But as I started doing it, I realized that this really has the shape of a cobra almost. And so I decided to kind of plan for that and ended up shaping it more like the head of a cobra. I did freeform all of this, and so it does look a little bit rough, but because this was a very early sword, this is during the Bronze Age. Yes, they had measuring tools and they had skilled craftsmen, but I do like the idea of it looking a little bit more freeform rather than just absolutely perfect. Again, I rounded out the backside here. Here I have come to a point on the backside of the Khopesh, but it's not a point like I have here. It's just rounded corners that come to a narrower point. And that was more for aesthetics. I don't know if it has any sort of battle usage, but I liked how it looked. And then again, I rounded out this backside up till the very back end here. So this would be useful. You have kind of a bladed edge on both sides. If you're swiping or coming back with a swipe, you do have a blade here. If you were to look at like a K-bar knife, you will see a very hard line where they've tampered down the difference between more of the structural part of the sword and then more of the blade part of the, not sword, knife, more of the structural part and then more of the blade part of the knife. So I decided that I wanted that sort of a shape on here because it is made out of wood. I didn't want to have some strong, definite angles because I think that helps it look less like wood and more like a different material. So I went with this nice hard edge here all the way around, and then you can see I did the same thing and kind of brought these two sides together on a straight edge here, so you do have that visual dimension there of the two edges meeting. And then I went ahead and I wore it down to what's about a 30-degree angle, which is a pretty popular angle for blades to have for a cutting surface. And then once I got to that point, I went ahead and sanded it all down, and I began the painting process. I started with a couple layers of white just to kind of go over the impurities, and I do very, very thin layers, but it helps smooth out the surface and make it more pleasurable to hold, and then I went over the single layer of black and then a single layer of silver, which is really popular if you've ever made like a prop gun or seen people make prop guns. It's really popular to go with a jet black layer and then a silver layer because it helps the metallic surface become more believable no matter what you cover it with at that point. Even if it was a metallic black afterwards, going with a matte black and then a silver really does help it pop. But once I put my gold layer on top of that, it was much too sharp for me. It was much too gold. And so I ended up going back and I got a hammered steel color. Then I went over the thin black layer. And then one more time with the hammered steel, I sort of speckled it on. So it gave this sort of worn iron look to it. And Khopeshes were made with iron eventually. Egypt was around for a very long time. And so you had the Bronze Age, which eventually turned into the Iron Age. So they did have iron, but because I was going as the Egyptian god of war Horus, he would have been alive during the Bronze Age. So I decided I want to go with the bronze. It matches the sort of gold look that I was going for on the rest of the costume anyways. Once I kind of got that dark color, I went over with a very thin layer of gold, and then I textured it a little bit with the black and bronze and did one more very thin layer of gold. And it came out very close to that sort of weathered bronze look that I had. Now, I could have gone over with one single bronze layer, but I just don't think that's as interesting when you get close up on something and you can kind of see multiple layers of different paints that have come together. I think from like an older metal standpoint, if I were going with like a medieval knight's sword, I'd want something straight up. But if I were going with sort of a crude bronze, I really like the way it looks when you have a couple different spray paints mixed in there. It makes it look worn, it makes it look impure as if the refining process wasn't mastered yet, and bronze is a mixed metal, so it just looked good to me. And then I started painting the back end black, but just a dark black on the very pommel, and I started fading it out on the way down. And the reason why I did that is I wanted it to sort of blend with the gold, and I wanted it to almost look like black gold in certain places. And then I came in, I did some accents, which again are more aesthetic. They aren't designed to look exactly like a cobra, but it does add a visual appeal rather than the matte color. And I do like the inspiration of it looking cobra-like. So if you do look at it close, you can see where the inspiration for a cobra came from. So I painted that with a gold acrylic paint, and then I came back over it again with the black, the steel, and the gold, just to sort of texture it in there, make the gold pop a little bit less by making it look a little bit more weathered and worn, and a part of the sword itself almost match that gold to the bronze down here. And then I went over with a single layer of acrylic paint so that it would be protected. And that is how you make your own Khopesh, or really a lot of those principles could work for any sword at all. If you wanted to carve, like I said, a medieval sword or a Greek sword, you could do a very similar technique, and I probably will in the future. I will probably make some more swords on this channel, but if you like this sword, the good news is that I'm giving it away. So I know a lot of channels like to give things away as an incentive for people to subscribe, and from a business perspective, yeah, that's great. It's cheaper than advertising, and it's more relevant because people find you because they like you rather than because YouTube paid you to watch an advertisement. It's also a great way for me to kind of give back and interact with the audience more. And thirdly, I'm moving from Georgia to Seattle soon, and the apartments are going to be very small, so I have to get rid of a lot of my stuff. So I have a lot of things that I've amassed over time, little projects that I've made either for my apartment or for the show, and I have to get rid of them. So I'm going to be actually launching a couple things here over the following weeks for giveaways to kind of interact with you more. But right now, if you're just watching this, you want to know how you can get this sword. All you have to do, all the links are going to be in the description below. All you have to do is share this video to Facebook and tag me at David Franklin. I'll have my personal Facebook page down there as well. You can connect with me on Facebook too if you'd like, follow along with what I'm going to be doing on the channel. But all you have to do is actually share to Facebook and subscribe here on YouTube. Those are the only two requirements. If you want to connect with me on Facebook too, that's great. But all you have to do is share and subscribe, and you'll be entered. In 1 month from today, I'm going to be announcing who this is given to, and I'm going to be shipping it off. And like I said, I'm going to be shipping out a lot of other things. If you're interested, again, that link is also going to be in the description below. And thank you again for watching. If you're interested at all about Horus or Egyptian mythology in general, some real basic stuff, I'm going to post some links in the description below. If you're interested in seeing some stuff on Assassin's Creed Origins, where they're going to be having the Khopesh in use, I'll post that in the description below. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day. I forgot to mention that I actually made this as a 1.5-handed sword. So 1.5-handed sword, the idea is you could either wield it with a single hand, which is how you use it most of the time, but if you're going against a very strong opponent, and you need to defend, you can hold with 2 hands, or if you're really going for a power attack, you can strike with 2 hands. But it is small enough that it can be wielded with a single hand. So anyways, thank you again so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for your chance to win this Khopesh, and follow along for more giveaways and more great videos. Thanks again, and have a great day.